Hello and welcome to this next module on the Inclusive Education Paraprofessional Training Series. This module is titled Specialized Instruction for the Inclusive Classroom, Module Overview. So what we'll be talking about is we're going to understand what specifically designed instruction, or SDI, looks like in practice. And we're going to know how to create curricular modifications across subject areas and activities. I'll be introducing some tools that I'll be using for the remainder of this module. So our agenda, we'll be talking about an overview of specially designed instruction, SDI, which is sometimes called accommodations and modifications. So we'll talk about what those are. We'll talk about modifications across subject areas, modifications across activities, and we'll talk about modification bags, which I encourage all of you to make to improve your own inclusive practice. So an overview of accommodations and modifications. Specially designed instruction is part of the Ed Code of IDEA. So this is legally mandated, and so you need to know this, and you need to be able to be fluent with this and enact this in practice. So there's a difference between accommodations and modifications. Modifications are sometimes called adaptations, but we'll talk about the differences there. And we're going to talk about embedding reading, writing, and math across all modifications. So just because you're working on ELA, English Language Arts, doesn't mean that you can't be embedding numeracy skills or writing, right? Like, so we're going to talk about how to include all of that. And we'll talk about modification bags and how to make them with things, items from around your house. So this is an important resource for you, as we've discussed throughout the modules. So this is the paraprofessionals' roles and responsibilities. Oftentimes paraprofessionals are not given a lot of training, or it's not really clear what your roles are. And so this gives you this area here, the support staff tells you what your roles are. So what we're going to talk specifically about here is how to increase active participation for students with disabilities. And that's going to be helping you to simplify work, develop adaptations or modifications, and make changes to the content that is handed out in class. You're going to assist students with disabilities to raise their hand, give answers, and contribute. And you're going to be thinking about how to make modifications so that the students have more access. And you're going to be providing direct instruction to students with disabilities, and hopefully students without disabilities in your class as well. You're going to be praising students for desirable actions and successes. You're going to be supporting and teaching students through their IEP goals and how to modify curriculum based on your IEP goals. Checking in with students regularly, interacting with peers and the class teacher, and keeping data. So these are the kind of things, the ideas that sort of are foundational to what we're talking about. So when we talk about accommodations, we're talking about leveling the playing field. We're not changing the playing field. So it's things like how you present material, providing students audio recordings versus a book, providing videos, fewer items on a page, larger print, providing a note taker, a written list of instructions. None of that changes the actual content of what's being taught. It's just providing it in a different format, but it's the same stuff. How students provide a response. Are they pointing or giving gestures or nodding their heads, raising their hands? Are they having something dictated? Are they using speech to text software? Is there a student writing for them? Are you writing for them? Are they using a spell checker, a word processor, a calculator? None of that changes the content that is being taught. Are they in a different setting, a quiet room with other students? Are they sitting near the front of the class, working in small groups? Do they have fidgets, right? None of this changes the actual content of what's being taught. More accommodations. Are we giving them unlimited time on tests, spoken directions, frequent breaks? These are all related to timing. Scheduling. Are we providing more time on projects? Tests in smaller chunks over a few days. Tests at different times of the day, right? We can be flexible with our schedules, but it doesn't change what's being tested or what's being taught. Organization. Are we teaching students how to organize themselves? Giving them an alarm to help with time management, highlighting text, giving them planners or organizers, explicit study skills. these are also things that could help all students, not just students with disabilities, right? So what can we use in special ed that benefits all students? So we shift from accommodations, which don't change the playing field, don't change the content, to modifications, which change the playing field. And for more on modifications, you can click on the link above. So like I said, it's changing the playing field. And these are some examples of how we change the playing field. So we're going to talk about modifications across subject areas first. I won't talk about every bullet point. I'll just highlight a couple, but you have this resource here with the hyperlink at the top. So I suggest this is one of my favorite tools for inclusive education. So thinking about ways to provide audiobooks instead of your traditional book. And oftentimes curriculum have these sorts of audio options built in. Can you provide pocket charts to have students match pictures to pictures, or words to pictures, or having things being read to by, if they're being read to by a teacher or peers, can they hold up pictures that represent the story, right? And any sort of matching counts as literacy skills. Using adaptive stories. So using the same pictures, simplified text, words paired with pictures and symbols, right? So we're looking at changing what is being read so it's more accessible, or having less text and more pictures, right? And that could also help students in the class who might be English language learners and who don't have disabilities. For writing modifications, we can talk about drawing pictures to show comprehension, or making a collage or poster using a magazine and other pictures, right? Like changing what we're asking students to do to show understanding. It doesn't have to just be paper and pencil the whole time, and not everyone has to do the same thing. Again, matching pictures to pictures, pictures to words, or words to words. That is all a valid form of literacy. These are sometimes called pre-literacy skills. So we have to think outside the box about what counts as participation in these settings during these subject areas. And then, can students cut and paste words and pictures, right? So students who have fine motor support needs, can we give them an alternative way to participate that's also building their fine motor skills? When we're talking about math, a very simple accommodation or modification, depending on how you use it, is providing a calculator to compute work and to check work. There are some online programs like MobiMax or IXL Math. Can they participate in those programs to fill in the gaps to help them get closer to grade level? Can we reduce the number of problems overall to be completed? And visually, and can we make it less problems on one page? Can we, for example, if we're doing triple digit math, can we have students do double digit math instead, right? We're making it more accessible because it's more accessible to that student. When we talk about listening modifications, can we pair verbal directions with a visual model, right? This would be good for all students. And can we have students work in cooperative peer activities? So think, pair, share, tell, help, check. Any sort of small group instruction is a really nice way to get students interacting together and to learn from one another and to support one another. With spelling, can we create a shorter list of spelling words, same words or different words or a combination? Can we have synonyms? So taking a more complex word and using a synonym that's easier to read, that would still count as a spelling, modification. Can we fill in the missing letter of a word? And can the spelling list have maybe a letter in their name missing from, so my name is Brent, and so I'm looking at the word boat, and for me, the space would be a blank for the B and an OAT, and all I'm filling in is the B for my name. So it's something more meaningful to me. Can students write words on large index cards and cut up the words for practice and put them in the right order, right? So there's a lot of ways that don't take a lot of time that we can think outside the box for making access points for students. When we talk about discussions, can we prepare a student ahead of time with questions that you'll ask? So you might be like, hey, the teacher is going to ask, they're going to call on you first. Here's the question that they're going to be asking you. Let's prepare a response. Can you work with a peer to get that response ready? And then give a countdown. In 3, 2, 1, the teacher is going to call on you, right? So the student is prepared and comfortable. Having students in class use yes, no as a way to non-verbally respond to what the teacher is asking them to do, right? And can we use a communication board to respond to questions? A communication board could be something as simple as an image of a keyboard, and they're just touching on a piece of paper, like different letters to answer a question. It could be no tech, or it could be high tech, like an iPad or some sort of communication device. So there's a lot of ways that we can get students involved by thinking outside the box. So these are some miscellaneous modifications, because sometimes not everything fits into one neat category. So things like, if you have a student who needs to move around a lot, can the student pass out and collect papers and or materials? This is great for all kids. Have a rotating chart of people that help in the class, right? Gets kids moving and interacting with one another so they're not interrupting you during class. Can there be a picture and or written daily schedule? Can that be on the board? Can that be on the student's desk? Can that be good for all students? Can students write it on their own so that they know what's going on in their day? And can we teach students, if to have like different color-coded files or folders to organize their homework and organize other papers, and these are things that are common support needs for all kids. So again, thinking about how special ed supports can benefit everybody. So we're also talking about modifications across activities. Before we were talking about subject areas, now we're talking about modifications across activities. So things like doing a science lab, sitting and listening, presenting orally. So if they're in a science lab, are there recorded directions at each station? This could be good for any subject area, right? Are we building in movement breaks so students aren't just sitting there and listening the whole time, because that's not a very good practice. So we want students to move around. Can we build that in naturally without students having to like interrupt and move themselves? Can we give students a tape recorder or some sort of audio recording device so that they can present and not be on the spot when presenting? When they're taking a test or completing worksheets or doing discussions during the test, can we make the test larger spaces so that's not as visually confusing, right? Can we give students a word bank or a picture bank or a picture and word bank that they're then maybe they could be dragging and dropping it from a word bank with their finger on an iPad into the proper space on a digital worksheet. Those are really great supports for, like I mentioned, English language learners. So thinking about how these can benefit all students in the class. Can we provide choice about how to participate in the discussion? Can a student whisper to their friend instead of have to raise their hand and speak on the spot? Can they do a pre-recorded response? Can they be prepared ahead of time? Things like that. When we're thinking about taking notes or using a computer or reading text, can we have photocopies of students' notes for other students so that the student with a disability doesn't have to take notes and can just focus on the lecture? Can we provide a modified keyboard that's color-coded and maybe has bigger keys so it's easier to type? And can we give student background information about the text before they read it so they understand what they're reading before they read it? I mentioned students being organized and helping students write. Can we put a clock or timer on the desks, and it could be like a disappearing clock that tells you how much time is remaining so that they know when the transition is coming up, and we can give them reminders. Remember, you have 5 minutes left, 2 minutes, 1 minute. Can we have students draw instead of write? Some students are really great artists and really prefer that. And can we embed that into all the things that we're asking them to do? So one way to get started in actually doing this is creating modification bags. And this is for what's called on the spot or reactive modifications. So, oftentimes classrooms shift and you don't realize that shift was going to happen because that's how schools are. And then the teacher hands you a worksheet and you need to be able to make a quick modification. So a modification bag can help you. If you can just go around your house and fill in the modification bag with things like Post-its, with markers, with sticky labels, with scissors, highlighters, paper clips, colored pencils, tape. All of this can help you make modifications really quickly so that you can create lots of access points for the student that you're supporting. Every year I have my students in my classes at Rowan University create their own modification bags, and they use this throughout our whole class. So they're showing me how to make modifications and they get really quick at it. So you can see in these various pictures in the top left, there's ribbon, there's tape, there's Post-its, Here there's chalk, there's different colored Post-its, there's a whiteboard. And this next one here on the top right, there's colored pens, different colored highlighters, a variety of size Post-its. Bottom left, there's a stapler, looks like an eraser, some lined paper. The bottom center picture, white out, could be really cool just to white stuff out, make it less complex. Dry erase markers, and here's a bag with like those clips. If you put clips on a book page, it's easier to flip the page. Little things like this are really helpful for creating reactive modifications. So things that you have to do quickly. So for your deeper dive activity, I really encourage you to make a modification bag. So, and don't spend any money, just, go around your house and, pick out some pens and pick out some whatever you have floating around, and make a modification bag so you can make your own modifications. And I encourage you to take it to your school and go to the supply closet if possible, asking permission, of course, and seeing if you can fill in other things that might be useful for making modifications. So a summary of our key ideas. Accommodations do not change the curriculum, right? You can move a student's seat. You can give them more time on a test. That's not changing anything that they're learning. It's just giving them more equal access. Modifications change the curriculum. And so again, changing the amount of spelling words, changing, less complex text, things of that nature, 2-digit math problems instead of 3-digit. And 2 resources are provided that I showed you: modifications across subject area and modifications across activities. And those 2 tools can really help you think through how to make these types of modifications across subject areas and activities. Here are a list of references should you want a deeper dive on anything that we've discussed today, and image credits. The modification bags were taken from students from my course at Rowan University. Thank you for your participation, and this is sponsored by the Learning Resource Center South, and I hope that you found this useful.